leftover pizza, but you know how it's usually kind of like hard the next day? It's good still, but it's hard. Hi everyone, Tamara here, and welcome back to another episode of Easy Glowing Vegan. Today I'm going to be discussing all things dairy. Now, as a vegan, I often hear from new vegans and non-vegans alike, how do you live without dairy? As you know, dairy is in so many of our favorite products that to give it up seems virtually impossible in today's world. The temptation is often overwhelming, and it causes a lot of newly transitioning vegans to, quote, fall off the wagon. Well, I'm here to tell you that you don't have to partake in dairy to still enjoy all of your favorite foods. When I say all of your favorite foods, I'm talking pizza, casseroles, puddings, cookies, baked goods, cheesecakes, ice creams, and not to mention hot and creamy spinach and artichoke dip. That is one of my all-time favorites. For me, that was one of the hardest things to give up, was that kind of rich and creamy cheese dish. Well, I'm here to tell you that I have created a splendid spinach and artichoke dip that you don't want to miss. The step-by-step video of how to make it will be coming up in just a few minutes. So stay tuned for that. Super simple, super easy, and you don't want to miss it. Before we get into that, I definitely do want to talk to you about all of the reasons why you should consider taking dairy off your plate. First off, you may or may not know that approximately 75% of the world's population is lactose intolerant, and most of them may not even know it. Lactose intolerance shows itself in many ways, and it can start from mild to severe stomach cramping, to breakouts and acne, to chronic inflammation. And this is a huge one because chronic inflammation has actually been linked to, precursors to cancer. So if you find yourself being chronically inflamed, having stomach aches after you eat, and not having very good skin, you might want to think about eliminating the dairy because you may be lactose intolerant. There's a big myth surrounding dairy, and that is that it helps fight osteoporosis. And that's a big myth because it's actually been linked to osteoporosis. There have been studies that found that the countries that consume the highest dairy have the highest amounts of osteoporosis. And the reason for this is that dairy is known to have 3 times more protein than human milk has. And that protein is really hard for our bodies to digest. And in order to digest it, it has to actually leach calcium from our bones to aid in that digestive process. There's plenty of protein and plenty of calcium found in plant substances that are much easier for our bodies to absorb. Dairy also contains high amounts of sugar. The sugar in dairy is known as galactose. When fed to rats, it caused, again, chronic inflammation, brain degeneration, and premature aging. They've even done studies in women that show that women who consume high amounts of dairy have higher amounts of heart disease, bone and hip fractures, cancers, and even premature death. Not only does dairy have high amounts of protein that's undigestible, high amounts of sugar that is bad for our bodies, but it also is loaded with hormones. And I'm talking real legit hormones that the animal produces itself, such as super high amounts of estrogen, in addition to added growth hormones, such as the RBGH hormone. This hormone is often given to non-organic cows to produce more milk. Once we consume that RBGH hormone, it actually affects our own insulin hormones and again increases the risks of cancer. So at this point you might be wondering, well, if it's that bad for our health, then why are we drinking it? Why is it everywhere and why is it in everything? Well, there's a few things we have to consider. First off, we have to consider the animal agriculture business. It's a huge multi-billion, multi-trillion dollar industry to where they don't want to stop selling you that stuff anytime soon. It's also connected to the pharmaceutical industry. Obviously, the more sicker you are, the more you need the pharmaceutical help. So there's big business in mind that we have to consider that's very corrupt and is not looking out for your health. But beyond that, there's an interesting little fact about dairy that a lot of people may not know, that it is actually shown to be addictive in itself. There is a protein that makes up 80% of the protein in the dairy alone. It's mostly what is made of cheese, and that is the casein. So casein has been shown to be addictive in humans, and that is why when you decide to go off the dairy wagon, you find yourself dreaming of pizza. We have to think about the fact that it is now virtually in everything, and we have to look at our obesity epidemic and our heart disease epidemic and realize the one thing across the board that is prevalent in these unhealthy diets is high amounts of animal proteins. So I do want to take it one step further and say, beyond our health, we have to ask ourselves, where does this dairy come from? How does it get from the cow to our table? Well, this is kind of where it gets ugly. This is not, we usually have an image of a cow grazing on a pasture and everything is great and sunny, and every once in a while the handmaiden comes up and gives it a nice milk, and then it goes and frolics off. That is not at all the case, and I'm not saying it doesn't ever happen on any farms, but I'm saying the average food that we buy that has the milk, that has the butter, that has the cream, the big time milk industries, this is more where our milk comes from these days. So, and this is quite a pretty picture in comparison to what's actually going on. So you may or may not realize or think about it when you are consuming your dairy, that cow, in order to produce milk, had to give birth. I know when I grew up, I was told that they were milking cows. I thought they were cows that just gave milk. That's what they did. And it wasn't until I got older that I realized that a cow is just like a person, in the sense that in order to give milk, it has to produce an offspring. So the cows produce an offspring, and cows are known to immediately form bonds with their babies. And unfortunately, hours after having their babies are taken from them. They are often seen running after the trucks that take away their babies. They are heard mourning, literally crying for weeks to months on end, missing their babies, trying to get it back, trying to find it. And to make matters even worse, after that, they are hooked up to mechanical milking systems that milk them for hours at a time, days on end, to the point where in the end, these cows produce 10 times more milk than they would naturally. In addition to that, then the babies, if they're boys, they immediately go off into a dark crate where they are pinned down, and within 6 weeks or so, they go off to slaughter to become veal. If they are a female cow, they get pregnant their first 2 years of life and live the same life as their mother. What you may also not realize is that dairy cows are meant to live to 25 years old. Once they are used for the dairy industry, their life is cut short at only 5 years old. Most of them, about 40% of them, by the time they reach slaughter at 5 years old, they are too lame to even walk through the slaughterhouse doors. So it's really important to not only consider what these things are doing to our bodies and our health and causing us this global health crisis epidemic, but then to also look at it in a compassionate way towards these animals and realize that this is somebody's life that we are intervening with and interfering with and making them live a life of torture and pain just so that we can enjoy the ice cream that is sitting on the shelf next to the delicious cashew ice cream. So I encourage you to, next time you go to the grocery store and you want to reach for that ice cream, to just turn your gaze and see all of the abundance of other ice creams that are there, made cruelty-free. You can also even get pizzas now, and I'm not talking, you can get frozen pizzas if you want, but even your local pizzerias are now offering vegan alternatives. So my point is that you can get all of your favorite foods, not only at the grocery store. You don't have to make them all yourself. You can order pizzas. You can go out to ice cream. Our local ice creameries have now vegan ice creams that they're making. So I encourage you to seek these things out and give them a try. And maybe some aren't as good as others. So just because you try one and it's not for you, please give it another try, because I promise you, not only will your health thank you, but the animals will thank you as well. So that's it from me today as far as the dairy is concerned. But I encourage you to hit that subscribe button down below. You know how YouTube works these days. You have to hit that bell in order to get notified when I have a new video out. So next week, we will be doing a healthy meat alternatives and how to overcome the meat cravings and how to get those in your family who maybe want to still eat meat, how to get them on the meatless bandwagon, maybe without them even knowing it. And we're gonna give you a how to cook mozzarella stuffed meatballs. So you don't want to miss that. They're gonna be super creamy, super delicious. And again, hit that subscribe button. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Easy Glowing Vegan, and I hope you have yourself an easy glowing day.